One day, I received a message from my sister Luna. I left Luke at the front door of your house, so please take care of him. I'm on a trip this time, so please look after him for a bit longer. In the cold air, my nephew Luke, who seemed to be in pain, was at the doorstep. I tried to reach her, but I couldn't. It turned out she was on an affair trip with my husband, James. A few days later, I finally received a message. Thanks for taking care of Luke. I bought you some souvenirs. I'm at his funeral right now. Luna and James panicked. The evidence that left the two of them speechless was from their affair trip abroad, which they thought would go unnoticed. My name is Mia, 30 years old. I work part-time as a cashier at a supermarket. I met James through mutual friends, and we just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. We wanted a child, but it was difficult for us to conceive, so we had considered fertility treatments. However, James' busy work schedule made him less cooperative, and we hadn't taken any action yet. Taking advantage of this situation, Luna frequently left her child with me. My nephew's name is Luke, and he's 1 year old now, cheerful and very cute. Taking care of him wasn't a burden, but Luna's behavior often bothered me. Luna had a shotgun wedding and was in her 2nd year of marriage. Luna's husband Jack was transferred abroad shortly after their child was born, and they were separated despite being newlyweds. Since Jack's transfer, the frequency of Luna leaving Luke with me increased. It used to be 2 or 3 times a month, but it gradually increased to twice a week. Luna is a stay-at-home mother, so I couldn't understand why she had to leave Luke with me so often. One day, the intercom rang unexpectedly, and when I opened the door, Luna was there, saying, "Here, take care of Luke." She handed Luke over to me forcibly and quickly left. "Wait a minute." I called out, but she ignored me and walked away. The most surprising thing was that the message said, "Luke is at the front door of your house," and when I hurriedly opened the door, I found Luke sleeping peacefully in the stroller. It gave me chills to think what would have happened if he had been awake and started walking. I pointed out to Luna that she couldn't just do this without any notice, and I asked her what she would do if I wasn't there. However, she responded, "It's fine, isn't it? You don't have kids, so you must have plenty of free time, right? You wanted a baby, and it's perfect for you to spend time with him, isn't it?" I retorted, "You're so irresponsible. He's your child, don't you want to be with him? You wouldn't understand because you've never raised a child. Being with him every day is suffocating." We would always end up arguing, and Luke would start crying. Since nothing changed, no matter what I said, I stopped saying anything. Even if I had plans, she would come and leave Luke with me without taking me beforehand, often causing me to cancel my plans. The only saving grace was Luke, who was nothing like Luna, and was sweet and adorable. One day, I received a message from Luna. "I left Luke at the front door of your house, so please take care of him. I'm on a trip this time, so please look after him for a bit longer." I rushed to the front door, and there was Luke in the stroller, sleeping in the cold. I hurriedly brought him inside, and his body felt hot. I thought it might be my mistake, but he was clearly different from usual. To be sure, I measured his temperature, and it was 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't very high, but he was also coughing and seemed uncomfortable. Luke had never had a fever while I took care of him before, so I was flustered by this situation. I immediately called Luna. "Hello, it's me. Luke seems to have a fever. Please come back and take him to the hospital." "Oh, it's just a slight fever, right? I can come back because I'm on a trip overseas, and canceling would cost a lot of money. It's just a minor cold, so take care of him. Thanks." "No, it's not like that. Bye then." She hung up in the middle of the conversation. Moreover, she knew he had a fever, yet she left Luke in that cold and went on a trip. As someone who didn't have a child, I was filled with anxiety about suddenly taking care of a sick child, so I contacted my mother, Mila. "Hello, Mom, Luna left Luke with me again, but this time he has a fever, and she's on a trip. What should I do?" "Oh dear. I'd love to go right away, but I've been at my sister's house since yesterday, and I'm planning to return tomorrow, so can you take care of him until then?" "Okay, I'll do my best. Hey, if something seems off, or if there are seizures, don't hesitate to call an ambulance." "Got it." Unfortunately, my mother is not here at the moment. My father, Leo, is probably at work, and even if he were here, he wouldn't be of much help, to be honest. Just as my husband James woke up and came to the living room, I explained the whole sequence of events and asked if he had a day off today. He replied, "No, taking a sudden day off is impossible. Though, by the way, I completely forgot to tell you, but I'm leaving for a business trip today." Huh? Really? Is it common to have a business trip scheduled so suddenly? How long will you be gone? Well, I was told about it a while ago, but I've been so busy that I forgot to tell you. I think it's about a week, if I recall correctly. Day week. Isn't that quite long? It's work, so there's no choice. Well then, I'll get ready and head to work. Indeed, James's work has been getting busier recently, and overtime has been increasing. Our marriage is not bad, but it's not great either. Due to the increasing overtime, we haven't had much time to relax together, and I've been feeling lonely, so we had talked about taking a day off together and spending time as a couple. However, when I told him that, James said he found work more enjoyable, which shocked me, and I didn't say anything for there. Thinking it couldn't be helped because it's work, I decided to take care of Luke on my own. Luke's fever, which had been 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit just a while ago, suddenly rose to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and he seemed to be in pain, coughing and wheezing. I didn't have his health insurance information, and I'm not even Luke's mother, so I wasn't sure if it was okay to take him to the hospital. Everything was new to me, and I was filled with various farts. I tried to cool his body by applying cold packs, but the fever didn't go down. Seeing Luke suffering, I thought I needed to take him to the hospital, but I didn't have his health insurance information. So I called Luna, but she never picked up her phone. In the meantime, Luke was getting weaker, and it was clear that his condition was deteriorating. Feeling helpless, I decided to call an ambulance. The ambulance arrived in about 15 minutes, but Luke couldn't even cry. I continued trying to call Luna, but there was still no response. I gave up reaching Luna and contacted my mother. She said she would immediately come over. It gave me some relief, and I also tried to contact James, but couldn't reach him. About an hour later, my parents arrived at the hospital. "Are you okay, Mia? How's Luke? It seems pretty serious, and he's in the intensive care unit now. They told me to contact his parents, but I can't reach Luna. What is she doing? I'll try calling her too." My mother said this and went to make the call. At that moment, the doctor arrived and explained Luke's condition. Luke had developed pneumonia, and they were giving him fever-reducing medication, but it wasn't working. To be honest, his condition was critical, and there might be a worst-case scenario. Thinking about the possibility of losing Luke, my heart ached, and tears started flowing uncontrollably. My mother returned and asked me, "Mia, what's wrong? Did something happen to Luke?" They said it's quite serious, and there might be a worst-case scenario. Mila reassured her and gently patted her back. I still couldn't reach Luna, but I kept calling her relentlessly. My mother also couldn't reach Luna, so she decided to contact Luna's husband, Jack, who was living abroad. She sent a message and decided to wait for a response. Later, Luna's phone began playing an announcement that said, "The phone is not reachable." I couldn't understand why she wouldn't answer the phone, and felt anger welling up inside me. Around the time the date changed, a nurse appeared, and it was reported that Luke's condition had temporarily stabilized. I could see his face, but he still looked like he was in pain. When I spoke to him, he opened his eyes and repeatedly said "Mommy," a word he had recently learned. I couldn't help but shed tears, and at the same time, my anger toward Luna surged even more. Since Luke had been admitted to the hospital, I went home to buy necessary items. At that moment, a call came in on my mother's phone from Jack. She explained everything, including the fact that I had been taking care of Luke, to Jack. He seemed surprised and said he would come back home soon. Although Jack couldn't return home often, he regularly called to check on the situation and seemed to believe that Luna was taking good care of the children. We still couldn't reach Luna, but just knowing that Jack was coming gave me some relief. Luke was still not improving, and the situation remained difficult. All I could do was pray. In the early morning, a nurse called me that Luke's condition had suddenly worsened. "Please hang in there." With that thought in mind, I headed to the hospital, but my wish did not reach Luke, and he passed away. I stood there dumbfounded by the unbelievable turn of events. Luke on the hospital bed felt strangely warm and cold at the same time. However, his expression was not one of suffering but rather peaceful. A few hours later, Jack also arrived at the hospital, and he was informed by my mother that Luke had passed away. He collapsed on the spot and burst into tears. It was such a sudden event that tears wouldn't even come to my eyes, but when I saw Jack, I, my parents, and everyone else cried together. I still couldn't reach Luna and James, but I received a message from my friend Nora, who lives in Paris. We've been friends since elementary school, and she is friends with James as well. Nora got married to a Frenchman she met at work last year, and moved to Paris. I received a message that said, "I know this is sudden, but are you in Paris? Or did you get divorced? Or did you have plastic surgery or something?" I didn't understand the meaning of it at all, but I replied that I wasn't in Paris, I hadn't divorced, and I hadn't had plastic surgery. Then, I received a reply saying it might be a mistake, and I was curious, so I called her. I called because I was too curious. "Oh, I just saw a guy who looked like James and a woman walking together, and I thought it might be you." Huh. James. James is on a business trip right now, though. Maybe I just mistook it, though. But I took a picture, so I'll send it to you. I feel like I've seen that woman somewhere before. Saying that, I hung up, and Nola sent me the picture. In the photos, there were James and Luna, both with big smiles. I thought I must be having a bad dream, but after Nora sent me several more photos, I confirmed that they were definitely photos of the two of them. At first, I thought it might be a coincidence that James' business trip and Luna's vacation happened to overlap, and since they had been close friends from the beginning, maybe they had dinner together or something. But in the photos, they were holding hands like lovers. That made me realize the two of them were having an affair. I immediately showed the photos to my parents and Jack, and that's when we understood why we couldn't reach them, even in this situation. Just to be sure, I checked with James's company about his business trip, and it turned out he had taken a week off. My feelings were already in turmoil due to Luke's passing, and the discovery of James and Luna's affair. But more than me, I was worried about Jack. When I looked at his face, he seemed to be thinking about something with a serious expression. "Please leave this to me for now." With those words, he left and went somewhere. The preparations for Luke's funeral were already in place, and since we were going to have a small funeral, there was a little time to spare, so I didn't stop Jack. We spent the whole day by Luke's side. The next day was the day of the funeral. When I woke up in the morning, Jack, you hadn't been there when I went to sleep, was sleeping next to Luke. There were tear stains on his cheeks, and my heart ached terribly. Only 4 of us, me, Jack, and my parents, attended the funeral. Although it was a bit lonely, we decided to send off Luke with the 4 of us. A few minutes before the funeral began, I received a call from Luna. "Thanks for taking care of Luke. I bought you some souvenirs. We're in the middle of the funeral right now." Huh. Whose? Is it Dad's? No, it's Luke's. Didn't you see the messages I sent you? She sounded flustered on the other end of the phone, but I hung up. It seemed that Jack also received a call, but he looked at the screen and turned it off. As we headed to the cemetery after putting Luke in the coffin, Luna and James came running towards us in a frantic state. In the midst of such a dramatic turn of events, it seemed that they had forgotten to hide the fact that they were having an affair, and the two of them had come together. "What do you mean Luke has passed away?" We stared at the two of them. "I messaged you everything. By the way, why are you two together?" "Well, we just happened to run into each other at the airport. I was surprised by your message too. I haven't told you anything about Luke's death." James panicked at those words. He made a painful excuse, saying Luna told him when they met at the airport. For now, let's put the conversation aside and head to the cemetery. Jack was crying hard by the coffin, and Luna tried to touch the coffin. Jack pulled Luna's arm and shouted, "Don't touch Luke." Jack had never shouted before, and Luna was surprised and stepped back. After that, Jack never allowed Luna and James to touch the coffin. And the funeral ended. Since there were still tasks to be done even after it ended, we decided to return to Luna and Jack's house once. Once we were settled, Jack started talking. "Luna, James, please take a seat. The two sat down, looking bewildered, with Jack sitting in front of them. Luke's death is also my responsibility. I left all the child care to Luna because I was overseas. You often left Luke with Mia due to stress, right? Yes. It was tough to be constantly one-on-one with the child. And you cheated because you were lonely, didn't you? Huh. Cheating. I didn't cheat. And what's with the sudden accusation? Laughing involuntarily at Luna's lies, which were futile to say at this point. Why are you laughing? Because Luna is saying something foolish. Thud. With that, Jack spread out numerous photos on the table. All of them were photos from this affair trip. Some were given to me by Nora, but most of them were photos I had never seen before, some even showing them kissing, making me feel sick. I found out that you two were cheating through photos from Mia's friend. So I immediately had a top-notch detective hired by my friend in Paris to tail you. While Luke was suffering, you two seemed to be having a good time. Do you have anything to say? As they looked at the photos on the table, the two paled and seemed to have no words to say in return. I'm getting a divorce. Luna's parents have agreed to it. Get out of the house. Luna looked surprised. I'm sorry. It's true that I cheated, but I was lonely. I suddenly became alone. I don't want to break up. Give me one chance. Desperately apologizing, but Jack said, a chance. I don't want to be in the same space as you for a second. You made Luke die. Don't ever appear in front of me again. And left somewhere. Luna. I knew you left Luke with me all the time, and I thought it was fine because you were alone. But I can't save you in any way for leaving Luke with Mia when he was sick, prioritizing a trip even when I asked you to come back, and cheating with James. I'm cutting ties with you. Mom, Dad, we're cutting ties with you. Don't come back home. Tears welled up in Luna's eyes at those words. James, thank you for everything up until now. Goodbye. I told him that and prepared to leave. Then he said, Mia, I'm sorry. It was a moment of weakness. Luna instigated me. I don't care about her at all. I'll cooperate with infertility treatment. So let's live together again. It's not true. You're the one approached me. I don't care. I sincerely think it's a good thing that we couldn't have a child together. I'm going to stay at my parents' house today, and I'll pick up my belongings in our house tomorrow. They kept arguing after that, but I covered my ears and didn't listen. Then, I heard a sound from outside, like something falling with a thud. I wondered what it was and looked out into the garden from the living room, and there were clothes, cosmetics, and so on scattered about. Jack was throwing Luna's things outside from upstairs. Luna was trying to stop Jack, but he said, you bought these with my money, so I can throw them away if I want, and didn't stop until he threw everything outside. Then, my parents and I left the house. Afterward, Luna, who had been expelled by Jack and wasn't working, had no money, and had nowhere to go since she had also severed ties with her parents. I thought she would be with James, but they had a fight at the very end. And because they caused such a commotion in the residential area, the gossip-loving ladies came to ask various questions. Jack used that to his advantage and spread the rumor of her infidelity, making it difficult for Luna to live in the area. My parents gave Luna $1,000 and made her promise in writing that they would have no further involvement with her. Luna repeatedly came to our parents' home to apologize, but my parents firmly refused to let her in. I don't know what happened after that. I wanted James to suffer to the fullest, so I sent a document detailing the divorce settlement to his workplace. The rumors quickly spread, making it uncomfortable for him to stay at work, and he ended up resigning. When it came to the divorce, I made sure to claim the maximum alimony of $30,000. It must have been a blow to James, quitting his job. Of course, I also told James's parents everything that happened. They came to apologize to me in person, and in addition to the alimony from James, they gave me a large sum of money as a gesture of apology. I was surprised by the amount. Apparently, they had been saving it for their future grandchild, who might be born someday. I initially declined to accept it, but they insisted on their knees that I should use it for any potential future children. I decided to accept it in the end. Jack sold the house and moved to England for work. On Luke's Memorial Day, my parents and I go to England, and we spend time together. Thanks to Luke, I developed an interest in child care, and I'm studying to become a child care worker now.